All right, we are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Danielle Patterson, CEO of Family Office Access. Today's conversation gets underneath the surface of family office engagement, how decisions are really made, and what turns a room off, and what actually earns trust over time. If you're a founder, fund manager, or advisor working to build long-term relationships in the world of private wealth, then today's session is for you. We'll talk about readiness, cadence, the human layer that shapes outcomes as much as numbers. One of the things I love about these sessions is making them interactive. So say hello, drop a line, let us know where you're joining from in the chat, which is like the event page comments, and please feel free to share your questions throughout. We'd love to weave you into today's conversation. I will briefly introduce our speakers for context, but today is really all about them hearing from their expertise. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. First, I would like to welcome Denny Chared, founder of DC Finance and the Family Office Circle. For over 2 decades, Denny has curated one of the world's leading family office communities across 18 global cities, creating rooms where families, founders, and ideas meet with purpose. And I'm also honored to welcome our second speaker, Erez Hevroni, strategic investor relations and private wealth executive. He has helped raise over 500 million across alternatives and advises ultra high net worth families on exits, structures, and the next gen engagement. He's known for his trust-based selling and clear investor ready preparation. Well, welcome to you both. I'm excited for our conversation and very happy to have this opportunity along with a live audience. Everyone can hear me? Give me thumbs up. Yeah? Okay, fantastic. Someone drop in the chat. Are you all able to hear me?
Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
I
Can you hear me?
well. I can hear you well.
Oh, fantastic. I had for a moment that I was not being heard. Well, with that, a big thank you to Denny and Erez for being here today. Looking forward to our conversation. Just to lay the groundwork, I know I gave a very brief introduction on what is a really incredible career both of you had led over 2 decades working in the family office sector. I'll start with Denny. Denny, I've followed your work for years. I've attended conferences in different locations and I've just really enjoyed having the opportunity to collaborate with you. But for those who are newer to your work in DC Finance, the Family Office Circle, can you share a little bit about what you've built and really what first pulled you into serving families?
Yes. Thank you. So we started by holding financial conferences. I used to be a journalist covering Wall Street at the time, but I ended up understanding that the family office world is really unique, and these are the hardest to get people on earth, really. And if I managed to get these guys in one place, we could have something interesting. And then I learned about what they need to deal with and their challenges, and we started holding neutral conferences. We don't sell any products, so unlike UBS or whomever, we don't sell anything. So we are neutral, and families appreciate that. And we built a conference that deals with everything on the agenda of families: estate planning, next generation, co-investing, arts, philanthropy, marrying wealth, more importantly, divorcing it, everything you can think about. And that grew. And today I need to check that, but we're probably the world's largest destination-wise, 19 cities annually. And then 2 years ago, we launched the Family Office Circle, which is a different company, but obviously related. That is an ultra high net worth private club chaired by Lisa Silverstein, the next generation of the Silversteins that owns the World Trade Center, where we are holding events at the homes, at the living rooms of some of the world's most prominent families in New York or around the locations of our conferences. So that's in a nutshell.
That's incredible. And so I misread. I had thought it was 18 cities across the globe, but there's 19 now.
You're right. What I was saying that I was correcting myself, but I was ahead of me, so I just let it be 19. You're correct. It's 19 conferences because we do twice. New York, we do twice a year. So you're right.
Well, and I can't wait. I've booked my hotels and my flights. I will be there with bells on. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, Boston and New York.
Yes. Well, thank you for that context for those joining us who aren't as familiar. And I'm very grateful to you because you have introduced me to Erez. And Erez, you just have an absolutely incredible career. And I'm looking forward to our being able to collaborate more. But for those that aren't as familiar, can you share a bit about how you got into the work that you do, and really how you've really learned the art of engaging families and earning their trust?
So first, thank you for welcoming me here to this webinar. I know Danny for what I think almost 15 years, and it was such a pleasure to see him growing too. In his network. But we go back, kind of like we learn a lot from families, and I'm sure Danny can tell a lot about that. But in the last 15 years, I basically very focused on helping families, executives, tech executives, to basically understand the dynamic when it comes to their wealth and how to exit their money and exit their companies. But from before that, I basically what I did before in Israel, I was a therapist. I actually started my career as a physical therapist, as alternative medicine worker, and I basically was more with the people. I basically learned how to engage with the people on the psychology side of the people, being the therapist and being able to listen to my clients and to everybody that I was working with. I'm investing a lot in the interpersonal skills and really understanding the uh, psychology behind why people do what they do and what they care for. So I have one side is my heart, which is the therapy side, and then I find myself when I moved to the U.S. in 2004. I joined the forces of Wall Street in 2006, and I was a wealth advisor with Merrill Lynch for a few years in Princeton, New Jersey, helping some phenomenal families from the pharmaceutical world, Johnson and Johnson, Bristol Myers, a lot of big executive there. And what I realized is that at the end of the day is the relationship, is the trust. They need to feel that you are part of their family, that they can come to you with any different subject that they have. I love that idea to basically embrace my ability to connect with people and to grow relationships. It took me, after that, I moved to Wells Fargo after a few years. Been in Wells Fargo in the ultra high net worth space for almost 8 years, managed a large book of business, over $400 million for families and executives. And I learned a lot by asking questions, kind of
Mm.
trying to align my goals with them and understanding that side. So in a few years, I basically start to open myself for more for family offices and start going and visiting and kind of like learning the art of what's behind the families and what they care for. Today, I'm kind of like engaging both of that into that side.
Wow.
If I may add, the reason I've introduced you to Erez and what I think is unique about him, there are groups like mine that just bring families together and don't do the deals. He's actually doing the deals, so there's no, it's not about the philanthropy of it all. But what I think I liked about Erez that I didn't see with so many others that try to do what he does is that many wealth managers or folks who just want to cut a deal, many times they're interested just in that, just in making the money and getting the job done enough. And that deep connection he has with families, I thought was very unique, which has to do obviously with his past. So I think his way of understanding families is kind of unique, and I think many people don't understand many issues about families and how to deal with them and patience you need. And I think that's what I saw differently with Erez, which I thought is amazing. I mean, if I would do a dinner in Miami and I'll ask him, "Can you help me bring 5 families?" He would bring the families, not the single family offices. By the way, most of the wealth managers don't get past the gatekeeper, which would
Mhm.
normally be the family office executive, which is a great gatekeeper, but still, It's not the family. And what I've seen with Erez was, how easy it is for him to bring the families and how they hug and kiss when they meet. So, I understood it was just a different kind of,
That's amazing. Yeah, your life experiences have given you this superpower of this emotional intelligence that allows you to connect. And I feel being empathetic is so important, being able to put yourself in their shoes and understand those pain points. And it's complex, and every family is different. And I think, what I've observed is that families, they respond so differently when they feel understood and not pitched. I think that's so important. And it sounds like this is really your superpower, Erez. And you as well, Denny, just with what you've created with the family office circle and the way that it's just camaraderie, people learning, no pitching. And I just think so many misunderstand this sector. And so it falls flat when they really try to treat the family offices like institutions. So a question really that to both of you, either of you can jump in, but what's the misconception you see when people really try to approach a family office like an institution? And maybe some guidance and really how they can reframe this.
I think that the way people approach families, and me and Danny always watching in the conference how people, networking. Yes,
Yeah.
and we're just watching. Me and Danny sometimes we're just watching, and it's so interesting to see the dynamics with people. I feel like families sense energy, right? And the
Mhm.
energy when I feel, you have your mind and you have your heart, right? And if you're in your mind and you're coming to the family office event that Danny will do, and we'll bring some amazing families there, and you coming with this energy, I want to sell you something. Yeah, I want to pitch you something. I want to sell you right now my transaction, right?
Yeah.
And this is your energy. It's they sense it right away, right? They feel it, they smell it. It's very easy for them to plug you into that shelf. All right, this is the guy that's going to sell me right now something. He doesn't really care about me. He doesn't care about my family. He doesn't ask me about anything. Just asking about my next fund, what I do. So the approach is very, very different, and we have to understand this is not corporate LPs, right? This is families. Behind the families, there's the founder, the oligarch of the family that basically works so hard on all of his lives, basically build a business. He's caring for his kids, how they raise, what they eat, where they live, who they associate with. That's what he cares. And the most important for him is that who's coming into his world, all right? And the people that will come to his world will have heart, all right, that he can trust, that he can feel, that they can be around him, they can hang out with him. He wants to feel comfortable to drink with them wine, or to listen to them playing music, or talking to them about real life, because
Yes.
they all the same, right? They're all like families like us. And if you approach them from a standpoint of, you are out there, I need your money, and this is the sense of the energy, it's wrong. So what I see the issues is misalignment, right?
Mhm.
Alignment between how people approach families, right? And there's have to be alignment between what you say and what you feel and what you care for the family, because at the end of the day they are not transaction. They look at you as someone that coming into their business, someone that they can work with, not for one transaction, two, three, four, five, into their future, and introduce you to their kids so they can trust you. A lot of people don't understand that the wife sometimes is a decision maker, all right? And she's controlled the emotional baggage of the family. They don't understand the dynamic of the families, all right? And they're trying to approach different ways. They don't respect the wealth advisor, the trusted advisor for the families, because they are the gatekeepers.
Mhm.
They will ask her, all right, this is the trusted advisor of the family. They will ask, hey, did you meet Erez? What do you think about Erez? If I didn't go past the wealth advisor or the trusted advisor for the family, I will not be able to build this relationship. So
Yeah.
it's very, very important not to be transactional. It's important to have trust-based relationship, and that's what I teach the founders. I teach
Mhm.
how to build trust. And there's a really formula for that, all right? Which is
Yeah.
credibility. You have to be credible. You have to have something to offer, all right, that you did in the past 15, 20 years, all right? That you're reliable, you follow back to them, you do what you say that you're going to do.
Mhm.
And then you're able to build with them intimacy, all right?
Mhm.
When I say intimacy is the ability to ask them about what's happening in their life, all right? And to be able to have this normal conversation that they feel intimate enough to tell you about what's really going on. And I divide that by self-reliance. And meaning by self-reliance is that are you there for yourself or are you
Mhm.
there for the families, right? And that's equal the trust level form like credit that you're gonna get with these families. And I always check myself, where am I with my credibility? Where am I with my reliability? What type of intimacy do I have? What
Yeah.
I can do for them, all right, first, all right, before we even going into any transaction or to offer them a deal or anything, right? So always be in the giving mode, always
Mhm.
think about what you can add to their life. I think that's the alignment that we really need to work on, and that's what I coach founders and people that wants to get into that market. And
And I
I
think
hear what Danny think because Danny is super highly emotionally intelligent guy, and very he's doing it very nonchalant, yeah. But you have to see him like every city that he's going is like the star of the family, yeah. But there's something that he's doing differently, right? Because he
Yeah.
them, he wants to
I
get.
think I think that Erez on his side of things, I think part of what he was mentioning is the trust, and Erez would need to be very careful what kind of deals he brings to these guys, because if he will just take anybody who's willing to pay him, and it's a bad deal, then he will have a problem later on down the road. I think to answer your question, there are so many things that are different from families and institutional, almost in every single way. But I can tell you that when I just started to get into this space. One of the I think he's today the chair of our London conference, Ian Morley, and some of the groups like mine thought, let's do an online business platform, and then you just earn commissions all day long. And then he told me, Danny, I don't want to work that way ever. I mean, that's why everybody failed. I want to look them in the eye and see who I'm looking at when I'm doing a deal, which is something many entrepreneurs and real folks who made it themselves like to do, the old school way. So that's
Yeah.
point number one. I can tell you in Miami, one of our speakers is a huge family from Australia, and he told me, Danny, I have my advisors and all of that, but I want to see really what's going on here and invest heavily in this part of the world. And in a way, what I can get out of it is, yeah, I got my advisors. They all have a reason to advise me to do this or that. That's not because they care about me. It's because they make money out of commissions, and they're not always in where I want them to be. And I think what's interesting about families is, one, they do share information with each other. If you, Danielle, will end up investing in a 3D company that you like, you will share or might share this story with your friends on Saturday evening when you sit at the table. Institutional investors are not going to do that.
Mhm.
So you need a lot of patience to work with families. Some are fast going, some will take a long time. But once you do get them, again, it's like getting a foot at the door into a club that's hard to get to. And if they like you, they will share it with others. And I think what I like about them that people don't understand as well is that they're unpredictable even for themselves. So if a family would tell you, if somebody's asking me, yeah, but do they invest in my space, which is 1, 2, 3, 4? If I ask them what they invest in, they might tell me, but they might not know until they see the opportunity in front of them. And I had a family that invested in a pharmaceutical company, which is complete. You really need to know what you're doing in pharmaceutical. It's 10-year lockdown. You need to understand what's going on. She never ever invested in that space before. The only reason she invested was she saw the presentation on stage and she just fell in love with the story. And by the way, the entire world of passion investment. What is passion investment? Broadway, film, things that basically your advisor will tell you, don't even think about it. What the hell are you thinking investing that kind of money in that film? But then the family tells him, get lost. I really don't care what you think. I love it, and that's good enough for me. That's the end of the story. Passion investment. That doesn't exist with institutional investors, right?
No.
So if the one who's presenting has passion has a story, has something unique. The families might say, the hell with my advisors. I don't care what they think. I love you. I believe in you. And by the way, the greatest deals ever were made because others, the professional analysts said no about deals. That I think it was the company that does the sensors, the car sensors, Mobileye. I think I sat with them once and they told me, Danny, nobody invested in us. You know why? Because none of the VCs, we didn't check the boxes. So none of the VCs invested. They didn't understand where to put us. And those who believed in them were people who saw just something they liked and energy they liked. So I think there are many things that are different about a family versus the professional, let's say. I think at the end of the day, what by the way, don't get confused. What Erez says is important, the trust and all of that, but don't think that that's enough for them to do the deal. They are very sophisticated folks. Just because they like Erez and trust him doesn't mean they will blindfoldly invest in his deal. But it means they will hear him out and then we'll look at the investment. But I think if they don't have the know-how in that space, they'll find somebody who does. And that's it.
And that's as well where those doors open. You get the trust. They're excited about you. They introduce you to another family they know and trust. It also, it can be unpredictable, like you said, Denny. And I guess that goes back to Erez, how you were talking about. It's so important just to understand the dynamics, because I'm sure just the simple things, who is making the decisions, more importantly, why, and what is that intricate web, and if you don't have that context, if you haven't taken the time to learn that, I can see where it would just really fall flat in the world of family offices.
Yes, and I think what's happening today in this approach, I work a lot with tech executives really in different growth stage of their companies. And you see some founders that basically have huge success, right? When they go and you put them in front of investors. And some of them have zero success. Yeah, they don't pass the screen. And they can have the most amazing technology and their company is doing well, all right? But something in them is not passing the screen with the investors. And I think that is one of the key points that when we bring investment to families invest in people. Families invest in the energy of the person, in the passion. What Danny just said, with passions is very, very important. They want to see resilience. They want to see passion in the people that's running the company. They want to see some track history that this serial entrepreneur maybe did it already once or twice. That they are knowledgeable. They teach them about something that they don't know. All right. They take their time to get to know them. All right. All of these things, if we don't do that, and you position it to the family offices just as a transaction, it's not going to pass the screening. All right. I will say that the family office have different processes. All right. They have the trusted advisor, like what Danny said about the pharmaceutical. Usually, what they will do, they will hire a few doctors from that space, from very good universities, to give them their opinion. They will sit with the people to feel that they can energetically, they feel comfortable and trusted, and then they will go into the next steps. But I think I have all different type of families, and I can say that the relationship that they have with them is for years, right?
Yeah.
Because I update them, I check with them, I sometimes just send them articles about a new field. I'm just always in the move of giving, right? And that's what at the end of the day will provide trust-based relationship. People wants to see that you are there, that you are not transactional, that you invest in the people, that you care, that you're empathetic, that you really care about their families and all their things that happen to them. People have emotions, and if you don't care about the emotions and where they are, and they, you're another person in that wants their money. So
the give ask framework, it's always looking, where can I give, and it just has a ripple effect. It always gives back to you tenfold. During a master class with Ron Diamond, he recommended The Go Giver, and so I immediately got it. Such a good book. If anyone really just wants the right mindset on how you need to approach the families, it's like the give ask framework. So read The Go Giver, and I love that that's opened so many doors for you as well, Erez.
Exactly, and I think one thing that we can learn about advice, right? And I think with Danny too, all of the families that he's working with, we're very, very careful who we're bringing into the circle, okay? Because if you bring into the circle companies or people or other families that maybe have not aligned values, all right, for how they live their life, how they treat people, how they treat the worker, how they treat the service, and you bring it into your own circle, this is your reflection, all right?
Mhm.
This is your reflection. And I think one of the most important things that I see when in the dynamics that I do for the last 20 years is people feel what you want. All right. Like people will feel what's your intention. Okay. And that's what I always do with the founders. What's your
Mhm.
intention? Right. If your intention right now is just to get their money, or
Mhm.
you want them in your business to help you to create value creation, right? If you come from the approach from the family, I want your value. I want your kids to work with me in the company. I want your networks to be valuable in what I do. They feel that there is synergy and alignment in the values of why I should invest here. Okay, so
But sometimes I
I'm not
would say,
talking about
Erez,
markets. I'm talking about specifically deals. Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm curious for you, Erez, I imagine it's probably hard. You either have to fire clients, are there people who are uncoachable, or I imagine there's simply deals that you say, this isn't something that I can introduce with all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of qualification that I do. A lot of people call me all the time because they know what I do and they know my space, and I know that I have that expertise with families. So I'm getting a lot of opportunities, and the ability to say no to things really can take you further. And I'm sure Danny, I think say no to people to come to his conference. What?
Oh, I
We talk
imagine.
about that. No, like Danny said, I think more no's than yes.
that's
No.
my favorite part of the business is to say no to people. But what I want to tell you, Erez, is that I think sometimes people do just want their money. It's not wrong for an entrepreneur of a company to ask you for money. That's why he's there. He doesn't want to do the holidays with you. He needs investment, and I think that's where the trust element comes. So they need to believe that you're real. They need to hear your story. I think many times. So I just want to say that you can also just want the money, which is fine. I mean, you don't want to. But I think a lot of companies don't know how to present themselves, right? I mean, how many times do you get a pitch and you say, "But you know what? You do 1, 2, 3 that they would care about, but you forgot to even mention, or do it from that direction." Sometimes sometimes I'm getting on LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know what the hell, sorry, people have in their mind, but I'm getting on LinkedIn, like somebody's trying to pitch me something, and then there are like 12 paragraphs of information. And I'm like, come on.
Oh,
Whoever has the time to read this doesn't have the money to invest in it.
yeah. This teeny LinkedIn message thing.
And I mean, who's going to read all of that? Do you really think that a family is going to be, let's sit down for the next 15 minutes and read all of this pitch that is thrown in my face? I mean, a lot of companies have no idea how to reach, how to write a pitch. And it's a different thing to write a pitch to a VC that
Mhm.
knows a specific space very well and you're talking business to them, to a family who might not know your space that deep, and you need to tell a story, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, so I think that's also, it's okay to ask for money, but sometimes you just need to know how to present yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and just going back to curating the room and being able to say no, your conferences are so intentional and well curated and making sure you have the right families, but the right, presenters and topics. And I can only imagine how, I mean, you've learned obviously over the years, it must shift dramatically from each city. Does each city have a completely different feel? And I imagine cross cultures working with families, you really have to understand the room and curate it appropriately.
Yeah, that's part of the interesting thing about it. Yeah, you have different vibes and feelings and a feel to each and every city. Even Austin, Dallas, and Houston are three different communities that are in different vibes and different mindsets, than one another. So yeah, it's absolutely, you see the difference. At the end of the day, families suffer from the same basic challenges, but you're right that there's a a lot of difference in how they think and how they operate depending on when they are. Families from the US, it's way easier for them to co-invest because
Mm.
the states are united.
Hmm.
When you go to Europe, good luck with that. Because if you're a German family trying to work with an Abu Dhabi family who's trying to work with a Russian family, you have so many different cultures and mindsets. So it's way more complicated to do that in Europe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fascinating.
And
And
this is a very good point maybe to bring in, because I
Mhm.
think what Dan is talking about, and I see it all the time in his
Mhm.
businesses, is the ability to integrate the information. All right, is to
Mhm.
ability to integrate cultures and talk to people in the same energy. Okay, and you can go to a conference, you can be a company, a founder, a technology guys that think that his technology is the most amazing things ever, and he's coming right now to the conference and he's saying, all right, there's money here. All right, I'm coming right now and I'll meet 100 families in Danny's conference. Um, and and he's coming with this thinking that he's just right now in a tech conference, all right, and he's going to talk to the people like that, or he's just very introverted and he's just going to stay uh, not socially ingrained, or introduce himself in a different way. You need to be coached a little bit, to before you go to these conferences to get the effect back. All right, and if you don't have that social skills, if you don't have these interpersonal skills to go and build a relationship and have the tenacity and have the patience to build the relationship with the family office, I would say that's not your space, right?
Mm.
And I think people that come to Danny's conference year after year, year after year, all right, and they are with this patient, they understand what they do, okay? They dare to build network, CRM of good relationships.
Mhm.
That's the people that always have funding. That's the people always that can grow even to the next chapter, to the next opportunity, and always have people around them to listen to them and to be with them. But if you are very transactional, it's very short-term gain for you in this space.
Mhm. So on the flip side, say you're not that in your face transactional, you're curious, you're open-minded, but you're introverted. I wonder, I mean, one of the things, Denny, you did a really great four-part article series on LinkedIn. And in one of them, you talked about the importance of having the right presenter, someone who has charisma and can tell the story. But have you seen founders who have just been introverted be able to succeed? Does it mean they just get the right marketing person, the right voice, the right face of the company? I'd be curious your thoughts on how to navigate that.
Look,
You're not
if,
transactional.
look, if you're amazing, you're gonna get the money eventually anyway. So but I've seen founders of very known companies that were just going to a dinner to raise capital, speak and just leave without even talking to anybody else. It's not their thing, but they were very successful because they really were strong in what they do.
Mhm.
Uh, on the flip side, I saw a company that was presenting at my event, and I think after the presentation, they were upset a little bit, and they told me, "Listen, after 5 minutes, people left in the middle of our presentation." And I told them, "You're lucky it was only after 5 minutes and not earlier, because for 5 minutes you're talking and nobody understands what you guys are doing. I mean, you may have not have heard the term elevator pitch, but if you cannot say who you are, what you want from them, and why should they keep on listening to you or reading your email, in 1 minute you got a problem. I mean, get to the point. You've been going on and on and on, and people are like, "What's going? What is he doing?"
Yeah.
So I think that many times the presenter could be the founder, or maybe he's the CTO guy, maybe he's the heart of it all, maybe he's the blockchain genius. But sometimes he should stay in the basement and do his research and let his marketing IR personnel that's way better at presenting do the presentation. You know, so in many cases that's the best thing. But of course, there are many founders that are who they are, and maybe they raise money without that help. But
Mhm.
yeah, not always it should be the one that's behind the product that should be doing the talking. Many times they would bore people to death. There would be, many elements that are missing. You need to know, you know, you need to look at Erez. Look how nice he's looking and smiling. You want to talk to him. Many times you see founders that are, and nobody feels like hearing them. By the way, I had it's also sometimes they go overboard. There was I think I told you that, Erez, there was an Israeli agrotech. Maybe I'm being too specific. Fund. There are several that came to Singapore and presented, and they were so full of themselves because they are top of the game, VC, tech, Israel. That one of the families told me, Danny, they were good, and it was me and six other families listening to them. We didn't even open the presentation because, you see, we have a lot of options where to invest our money, and there are other equally good options. But because it was so arrogant, we just said, you know what? I don't want to open the presentation, even if they'll make money for me. I don't care. So you need to know how to be nice, interesting, and how to communicate your message in the right way. But many times you see stuff that you're like,
I totally agree with Danny. In the past, I would say in the past 15 years, I'm in this group of family offices in Palm Beach. It's very close group that it's very condensed, like 25 to 35 families that always talking to each other. They're like their mastermind of each other. And because I bring some more families there, they allow me to be in their network. And it's so interesting to see what's happening when they send the founder out of the room, right?
Mhm.
They usually have four people coming and presenting there. And when the founder leave the room, then you hear the conversations of what people think. And what Danny just said is really correct because they can have the best IRR,
Mhm.
have the best platform. They can have the best technology, interesting real estate opportunity, but the guy is so full of himself, is so think that he's doing something so amazing that he's not even connecting to them, doesn't let them feel, doesn't answer their questions, doesn't provide space for them to be and to discuss. Uh, so there's no investment. While there's someone that's coming very humble, all right? He's humble. He just know what he's doing. Okay, he just like say exactly what's the investment is, right? And his energy of money is very calm, is comfortable, all right. And that's the guy that's gonna get the check. Why? Because he's aligned. He's That's who he is. They want to see authentic people talking to them, grounded, say what they really are, credible, reliable, able to give them space to talk to them, care for them. They want to bring them as partners. That's what they like to want to hear. And that's what I will say before you entering, coming to conferences, doing whatever you want to do. You want to do networking, you should learn how to approach that. And that's why me and Danny are here. We always we have so much knowledge and so much experience over the last 15 years helping families and understanding founders and see all this success and who's successful, who's not, that we really can guide them into this path and help people basically bring their innovation to lives, their opportunities to life. But there's a way to do it. There's, have to be synergy between their mind and their heart and what they want to present to the families.
Wow. Well, this honestly, this conversation is so valuable, and you're being able to share these insights because you may not get that second opportunity. You may make that lasting wrong first impression. And I do think it's the energy. It keeps coming back to how you show up, and it's a relationship. It's not transactional. And so, clients that we work, we tell them the data can lay a great foundation so that
Mhm.
you can invest in the relationship before you enter any room. You can really try to understand what this family is about, how they think, what they care about. But ultimately, it's the energy, and it's on both parties. And if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. But that impression so important because it may not be a fit for that family you're with, but
Mhm.
they may know someone and they may introduce you. So, yeah.
We saw a lot of transaction that basically came out not from the specific family that we introduced to, just by one and two, three introduction that happened from that families through their advisors or others. It's definitely so true. It's the people, I would.
Mhm.
And also, I think it's the access, the right access. I think what you bring, Danielle, to the story is ability as well. Again, curated data, right? Is ability to put on your platform good data of families, and as well, what Danny is doing is also, he's working so hard to keep each center of contacts in protected from the bad influence, from over service providers, from people that basically will abuse the system. And I think that's why Danny is in this business for so long. Because
Yes.
so a lot of different players that basically come and go, but it's all about the credibility of the people.
Absolutely. And I really admire Denny. I've come to him many times to get his perspective because he's been doing this and he's seen good seeds, bad seeds. And I really do trust that that assessment that you have because you've learned really to be able to recognize when players are in it for the right reason. And I think it's so important because that ultimately reflects on your own reputation and
Mhm.
your own relationships. So it's really important to recognize early
Thank
on.
you. Thank you. The only reason I'm many years in the business is always because nobody would hire me, but that's my only so.
Well, you guys tell the story. We were talking behind stage about how the two of you met, and for a moment you had to kind of recollect. But I think it was actually at one of Denny's conferences. But Denny, tell us what stood out and why you actually remembered very distinctly.
Yeah, because you know why? Because Erez was different, and that's great. It falls in line with everything he's been talking about, how to not be another advisor from Wall Street, because there are plenty of those. There are millions of those. And I remembered him because of his shirt. I don't know, he has a very good taste in shirts, and he came with the shirts with those colors that were different than normal shirts. And I was like, okay, who's this guy? Of course, I was suspicious at him, as I am at anybody I meet. I was like, he wants something. And then it was very nice, very, very nice and and even when I think when I probably gave him the hard, questions of what are you here for? What is this? What is that? He always managed to, I think, navigate it very nicely. And that's when I started to slowly but surely learn who he was and what he was all about. And today he helps me when I do a dinner sometimes for some of my clients in Miami, and I need good families. I give him a call, and half of the room is these guys. So that's what I recall.
I love it. So it was you stood out from the crowd. You cut through the noise using your fashion. And from the few times I've met you, you've always been impeccably dressed. And
Thanks.
that's just probably a part of who you are. And so showing up authentically, not being afraid of your differences. I struggled for years feeling out of place. I'm this woman in finance. And then I realized these are families. Mothers. I talk about my kids, and it's the easiest way to just have a real conversation about what we care about, what's our why. So, either of you have anything to add about, leveraging what makes you different or authentic and how that can help build trust?
And I think when you look at Erez, it's that whole thing about him that's very nice and warm, really. And families, especially the wealthier ones, they have like 10 layers of walls to protect themselves from another Wall Street guy. They sense him, they smell him without even him starting to talk, right? They know everybody wants something from them, from the days they were trying to date somebody to the days they were trying to invest with somebody. Everybody wants something from them, and they need to figure out, even with, I have a dear member of my club that was very hard to get through. She was very, very tough, very, very, kept her distance from me. And eventually I managed to somehow make it. And today she's amazing, but they are guarding themselves. And I think when you see a different approach, that's not just, a greasy salesperson, which is most of what you get out of those banks, I think then you manage to penetrate that inner circle.
I think also is tell your story. All right, like I think be who you are. All right, not somebody else from Wall Street. Not somebody that you think they want to be. They want you to be. I think when you just feel confidence with who you are, and I think also the relationship that you have with money is very, very important.
Mhm.
I think one thing that I saw with founders that able to raise capital or not is these founders that have inner relationships. All right, and we're going to talk a little bit something a little bit maybe deeper. Uh,
Mhm.
we all have some type of emotional financial wounds. All right, and when you meet big money, all right, when you go to meet in the crowd ultra high net worth people with hundreds of millions of dollars,
Yeah.
and your relationship with money is not so good with yourself, the conscious that you have about money is not really aligned, they can feel that. All right,
Mhm.
if you are there to give your gifts, if you are there to connect, if you are there to bring value, if you're there to bring them expert, if you're there to provide for them good advice, and you align with what they care for, I think that's what really helps in the process. uh,
Mhm.
Danny, do you agree with how you approach the energy of the consciousness that you have about money and the families?
Yeah, I mean, my approach is a little bit, I think, different than some others, and that's why not everybody. I'm not, everybody's cup of tea. We are very straightforward. We would be. We don't accept certain things. People that are accepted to many other conferences because they have a credit card and a pulse, which is usually the standard.
Mhm.
Uh, we would say no to, and we're like, what? And and when we dig a little bit deeper, and we draw a line, and I think at the end of the day we'll have some that would say, oh, they're not real, they're not nice, but we'll end up with the real deal at the end of the day. So I think it's worth it for us. So with us it's been about that, and I think that's why you see major families involved on our stages. I mean, this year alone we had Wrigley, Pritzker, Crown, Randy Zuckerberg, Firestone, Silverstein, all these amazing families, and they don't get paid. They don't even get their travel back. I think it's because they appreciate the community and the fact we are really doing our due diligence on who's attending.
And one thing I'll add to that, Denny, it's they've made their success, and they're in many cases still building success and making success for the future generations. But it's almost like a way of giving back and connecting with that community. I loved Carol Levin Burnick, for example, and the way that she told her story. And I mean, it just touched me. It was so beautiful, and how philanthropic she is. And it's a way she can use her family's legacy, but share and connect with others in the room. And that's, I mean, the way that you get the families to tell their story, Zach Williams, and I mean, the list goes on, but it's the way that connection is created.
Yeah, some of them would like to use their power and influence to share their stories, their challenges that they had when they were kids, very openly if they have the right. I had an online session with the founder of Second Cup, this Canadian Starbucks, and online, like in front of the entire world, he wanted to share that he was sexually abused as a child, that his parents threw him out of the house because he said one of the family members sexually abused him. And then he was a homeless guy on drugs until he was 17 years old because it was important for him to tell the youth in Canada, which unfortunately suffers from a very high rate of suicide, that
Wow.
if you believe in yourself, look where it becomes. So they're not ashamed. They want to share the stories because they got there come hell or high water, and they want the world to know and use their influence to make a difference.
Wow. That's powerful. He needs to Sean Lesser, I'm a big fan of his work. He started the Rio Mental Health Foundation, and his summit is the day after your New York conference, Denny, and he's looking for family office speakers who can speak to mental health, and sounds like a very, very powerful story.
I think what Danny just said is basically there's the ultra high net worth families have already wealth, all right, money, yes, but they understand when they get to that point that there's wealth that you cannot buy with money, right? And the world that you cannot buy with money is the impact that you can do in their life, right? Impact that you maybe want to do for non-for-profit, for country, for people. I, for example, worked with some phenomenal families from Israel, the Adelson family, Miriam Adelson, and I just wrote an article about it. Wealth that you cannot buy with money, about Miriam Adelson, because we just saw how she helped to push Donald Trump to release 20 hostages from Israel, and her work behind the scene. Yeah, she got power and money and everything, but it depends what you want to do with it. So
Absolutely.
families care about working with other families that care about their own things, or to talk to experts that really can help them to engage what their impact. So a lot of my conversation with the families are around their impact and how they want to achieve different things in their life and what their kids and their next generation is looking for. And sometimes I just find them job with tech companies or get them into VCs to work for, or just talk to them about things that they care about and they want to do an impact with their money. It's not just about yeah, they already have the money, but there's things that you cannot buy with money. Is your health, is your longevity, is your biofeed, anything that you really can change their life and their families. And I think that's why Danny in his conferences brings such an amazing content, that's what drives them to come in. Not because of the transaction and the money they know how to do, but the ability to learn something new, something that can influence them and to do more impact in their life.
100%. That's my favorite part of this work, is seeing those leaders who are making an impact, but creating that ripple effect. And I'm encouraged by, the next gen that is really staying connected to the family, the wealth, but learning their own ways, and the kind of this new focus on really making a difference with the family legacy. Well, I know we have a whole incredible line of, usually I try to bring these questions in, but I know we didn't want to disrupt the flow, but I do want to honor some of the amazing attendees and their questions that have been dropped in. Let's see. What is your recommendation to start accessing family office networks in new geographies for IR independent professionals working with funds? Thank you, Blanca, for your
networks in new geographies. Accessing FO network. Well, call them. Would be a good start. I mean, I don't understand the question really. What do you mean?
I can help her here. She's basically asking how to access family office networks in the geographies of the IR of the fund. Yes. So let's say if the fund is doing real estate in Texas, so she definitely wants to work with credible family office network. Okay, like DC Finance, all right, in Texas. Okay, that have some good families already, right, and really have a strategy how to build this network, all right, and be able to participate there, to feel the ground, to introduce herself, to make relationship, to use database that basically very targeted for Texas. This is where they want to raise the capital from. Be a very good storyteller about why they do what they do. Okay, what type of families they want to work with, and really maybe work with advisor like me to really coach them on building the right pitch deck for the families. And basically, if they don't know how to network yet with families, to really use services like that to really open the gates for that. So I think that will be a good thing to do. And as well, like Danny said, make sure you have a good presenter. If you're buying a seat on a conference and you're going to be a sponsor and you're going to talk there, make sure that the presentation is reviewed by experts, and as well make sure that you put the right person in front of the families.
I think the major challenge for people outside of our network is to understand who's real. Erez, because we started in the institutional world. Institutional world is easy, right? Because either your card says CIO or it doesn't say CIO. Family office it's easy because it's harder because anybody can fool you to think this is a family office or not, because these are private people. And unfortunately, our world is full of, some of the groups in my space are somewhere between fraud to just being very, very poor. So I think, and it's tough because you're not in the business like we are, but see who speaks there. Are there real families? Are the sponsors names Are the folks who speak a second, third tier companies? Are they the top exec? Who's involved? Who's willing to get involved with them? Because if you see anybody with an exclamation mark, it's not real. All of those will tell you we are the largest this, we are the world's biggest this. Or when you see a name of a conference, it sounds like a Star Trek film. No, the intergalactic annual gathering, if it sounds too big, families like it quiet, boutique, off the record. So if you see something that's too flashy, it's probably not where you want.
Well, I'm curious too, Erez, when you talked about the pitch deck, I know it's important, it's necessary, it's a way that we make the data, the information visual, but in this dance of getting to know each other, when do you coach your founders to present the pitch deck? Is it not something to lead with, but something to kind of have on the third conversation? What's your advice there?
So it's a very, there's no really set rules for that, but what I say is that sometimes founders rush it to send them a follow-up with their presentation, and they send them a full deck and sign the DocuSign, and all of that already will scare the family and said, you know what, no thank you, and then they don't hear back from them. There needs to be ability to feel what's really happening there, and again, it's this emotional intelligence to understand, all right, I just spoke with Roger, he's running a family office, and we had a really nice conversation, and Roger said to me, you know what, talk to me after the holidays, right? So if I send something to Roger before the holidays, right, maybe Roger will think that I'm too pushy, okay? But if I don't follow up after the holiday, the momentum lost, right? So you really need to feel the ground, and you really need to think, what can I give to Roger about this industry that it's not related to me, right? And if Roger will ask me something about my competitor, and my competitors do something really well, better than me, I would say, you know what, my competitor is doing this specifically questions better than me, but I do this. All right. That's how you gain the trust, right? You can say the truth, right? Sometimes people come to me and I just tell them, you know what, Danny knows better than me, all right? Or Max know better than me, all right? Go there. They get a good answer, and then they come back to me because they know that I directed them to the right place, all right? And that's what gaining trust is all about, right? And I think it's very hard to say second stage, third stage. That's why you need someone who basically work with families that really can guide you to do that if you are really new in that space. Okay, that's what I will say. If you want to increase the chances of success when it comes to raising capital and being with families and all of that.
I love that. Just one more way you can give. And to me, I just love, I'm a connector. I can't help. I joke. I tried to hook my husband up with my older sister before I realized, what am I doing? But it's so fun when like like Denny, for example, I know how good his conferences are. I've experienced the positive impact. And so to be able to advise a client when I know it's the right opportunity, the right room, it just feels good. And it's fun to have that ecosystem of partners. It's just a win-win for everyone involved. So I guess my own advice to people is, work on the ecosystem, and not just those that you need something from, but those who elevate you. It's this network. It's all so important. It all plays a role.
It's exactly like that. It's an ecosystem, and I think me and Danny really see the ecosystem for years, and we know who's there and real and who is not. And sometimes me and Danny will have conversation about, we are the gatekeeper for each other, and when it comes to people, just because we want to make sure that we work with the right clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't. These sessions always fly by. I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface. We could do like session 2, 3, 4 to be continued.
We
And
love
there
it.
are questions, so apologies to those we didn't get around to. The nice part is this live stream is archived on the event page, and so all of these comments will be. So we'll do our best to make sure anything we didn't get to answer live gets addressed. And what is the best way for people to follow up with each of you to learn more about your work?
So I would love to send people to my LinkedIn to people can send me questions into my LinkedIn, and if they want to get a little bit more information about the family office network and how to work and where to go and how to do it, I would love to help them. They can message me on my LinkedIn or through my email that I can share with you, and love to guide them and to coach them in the process. It's better to do it right before you burn bridges. And I think that's very, very important to do that. Danny, what do you think?
Likewise, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Danny with an E, so easy to find me. Yeah, feel free.
Well, a big thank you to both of you for sharing so generously, and of course to the audience for joining us live, bringing the energy, bringing the great questions. There was a question earlier that we didn't get to address, but Blanca, you asked, you said it's not easy to get contact details, and that's really what we provide. I mean, we were a family office list, but encouraged the wrong approach, the spray and pray, uninformed. We've evolved to family office access because that data, that contact information, it's a very valuable part of the equation, but it's the ecosystem, it's the right approach. So Blanca, love to share more about what we've built at Family Office Access. And for anyone joining today's call, a thank you for anyone who's interested. You can head over to Family Office Access. We have a free trial. We just launched version 3 last week, and we have Live 20, which is a 20% promotion for all of you for being amazing attendees. So thank you all. I think in the comments we dropped next week, we've got a master class featuring Pappy PJ Denuzzo. I'm listening to his book about how you can manifest, and it's incredible. I'm looking forward to, building a life of wealth beyond just, finances. And that will be next Thursday. And in the meantime, everyone stay happy, stay well, stay curious.
Thank you.
Thank you.